Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 117 on Tuesday, the 11th of July, 2017. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And this week we will be discussing how a bus is actually a white elephant. Alternative fuel registrations are up, much to Alan's joy. Pandas spotted in the wild, and what it's like to drive in India. And I'm going to kick straight off, though, with follow-up. And we have a little bit this week. Most of it's okay, I think, ish. But we're going to start with the ever-present Dieselgate, and this time an Audi manager by the name of, I'm just trying to find it here, Giovanni Pamio. And if I've butchered your name, Mr. Pamio, I do apologize. Who is an engine developer or engineer from Audi, has been arrested by German authorities or Munich prosecutors, and is apparently, or reports are, that he's going to be extradited to the US. So he's been arrested.
Well, the US is seeking extradition. The Eastern District of the state of Michigan is seeking extradition.
Ah, okay. I didn't see that little bit. Yes, I need to make that clear. I don't want to falsely.
Be deported.
No, I don't want to be putting out false rumors. But right, okay, they're seeking.
Do you know what they're seeking it on the grounds of?
He's
conspiracy, wire fraud, and false statements to the Clean Air Act.
I knew about the false statements because he's supposed to have told employees to say, "Oh, it's all wonderful, no problems, everything's fine, carry on." So yeah, so that doesn't. Well, this will be interesting actually, because if you're interested in this stuff, it'd be interesting though from the point of view that if he is extradited, this will be the first person extradited from Germany, because the previous VW senior manager who was arrested in America, and there are international warrants out for 6 or 7, of which I'm presuming this chap is one.
Yeah.
And if they do get the extradition, then it may mean that German authorities do arrest people on behalf of the Americans then, like they would over here.
Yes.
They've got that same deal, and I can't remember where they have. But as if everyone remembers, a couple of weeks ago, we did discuss how the German senior managers have been told not to leave Germany and definitely not to go to America.
Yes.
For fear of arrest and therefore incarceration even.
I said it was going to be one of these evenings, didn't I? Yeah.
It's been a bit of a day.
Yes, absolutely. Shall we move on?
Yes, happier news.
Yes. Is it happy?
Well, it's bewildering. The whole thing's bewildering, but yes, this is a more positive follow-up, shall we say.
I think bewildering just about covers it. So European antitrust authorities have said they've got no issue at all with the PSA purchase of Vauxhall and Opel from General Motors. That would make PSA the second biggest vehicle manufacturer in Europe, with something like 4.3 million cars, was it? 4.3 million vehicles, something like that. So that's all the car manufacturing side. That's just fine. However, they're still waiting on the go-ahead for the takeover of the financial side. So you know, all the loans, all the leasing, all that kind of stuff. GM is also set that off, and that's been bought by a combination of SA and BNP Paribas, the French banking group, as well. So approval for that coming through, but there shouldn't be anything in the way to stop PSA taking over all the manufacturing and all that side of the business.
No, the feeling is that this will all get approved and the deal can be done by the end of July, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the general sort of consensus going around this. So that'll be interesting. Get it out the way before the summer holidays, I presume. It's what everybody will be trying to do.
It's a little bit late. If they can get it done by the 1st of August, they'll be doing quite well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Follow up. Do you remember, Alan? Quite a while ago. This may have been last year, actually.
Last August. Yes, I remember it well. I was amazed when I looked it up and found it was last August. Yeah.
Crikey, time flies when you're having fun. But what are we talking about? We're talking about the car straddling bus from China that was prototyped that people went all gooey and crazy for. They said, this is wonderful. But it looks like it's a complete con because 32 members of the company have been arrested with trying to raise funds and fraud through false ways in general naughtiness. This is quite an interesting article where they on Jalopnik that will be in the show notes, where they've taken extracts from the New York Times, I think it is. Yes, it is the New York Times, talking about some of the investors who stopped by, which included celebrities, entrepreneurs, and local officials. And they stopped by for over an hour. Some left with gifts and grocery bags full of cash.
That's always a sign of a really, really honest business, is that they're handing out grocery bags full of cash. That's what I like to hear.
Chinese media constantly said this was just a scam, and so it is proved. Or, well, it seems. Sorry, there have yet to be a trial and things like that.
Yeah, they were what they doing? They were offering a 12% return on investments in public-private partnerships, and so this, of course, as a bus and public transport, was one of these partnerships that they were trying to promote, and that's where it fitted into all of that. But no, thoroughly dodgy in the end.
Yeah. Right, and we've got one more bit, haven't we?
We do. One last one is that Ford. Do you remember whenever the Mustang was put through Euro NCAP last year, it came away with a somewhat disappointing, no, worse than that, pretty awful, 2 stars, really, when most cars going through Euro NCAP right at the minute are getting 4 and 5. So Ford, of course, have tried to correct this. So they are now offering a more safety kit as standard. That includes pedestrian detection, front collision warning, automatic emergency braking. I couldn't remember what the acronym was for just there, and lane assist as well. So that's bumped it up to a 3-star rating in Euro NCAP, which is still not good. But on the other hand, live free, die young, buy yourself an American muscle car. You never didn't buy an American muscle car because of its safety rating. So I don't really think it's going to do much to harm or boost sales too much. But it does make Ford look a little bit better. Not a huge amount when it comes to the Mustang in Europe.
Yeah, it's still disappointing they can't get higher rating.
Yeah,
considering their other cars can do it.
Yeah, but I think it's just I think a lot of it is biased towards where the vehicle has been engineered for it. But in the US, it has perfectly reasonable, respectable, and pretty decent rating in US NCAP anyway.
Yes, well, that's the end of the follow-up. It's now the new news, and once again, the time of the month has rolled round. And it is the new car
time of the month, is it?
Registration figures.
Yes, it's my favourite stories of the entire month. Unfortunately, I've lost them on my thing here because I'm very organised tonight. Yes. So, yes, it's a drop again this month, everyone. 3rd month in a row after 5 years of continuous growth in the British new vehicle registrations. Didn't say sales. That's didn't say sales. New vehicle registrations. I've been away for this for a week and feeling very out of practice, to be honest. So down 4.8% June on June, with 242,454 vehicles registered in June 2017. The headline figure really is that alternative fuel vehicles were 4.4% for the second month, with more than 10,500 registered in June, and that's up 29% on the numbers from last year.
Excellent.
Hey, it's still not 10%, but hey,
it's creeping up.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's creeping up. It's good. It's good. Year to date, by the way, is down 1.3%. Again, I still say that that's a rounding error because it's less than 2%, but it's just over 1.4 million units, which still seems like a huge number of vehicles to me.
Well, the pre-change of tax rates and all that, that's been wiped out now, hasn't it?
Well, SMMT is saying that this is continued stabilization after that crazy first quarter.
Unless
where everyone was racing.
Unless you are selling diesel vehicles, that's not stabilization.
Well, you're quite right. Diesel vehicles are down 14.7%, petrol up 2.5%. And of course, it's down across the board. Private fleet and business. Private down 8%, business down 8.3%, fleet down just 2.4% because they are stuck on that rotation of vehicles, basically. They can't chop and change like private and business. Business is up to 12 vehicles, if I remember correctly. Just there. Should we hit the bestsellers?
Yes.
Because this leads to one of the top stories. So bestsellers, let's start at number 10, as we normally do on these occasions. Number 10 is Mercedes-Benz C-Class, 4,102 vehicles. Number 9, the 3 Series, BMW 3 Series, obviously. Number 8, Volkswagen Polo. Number 7, the Nissan Qashqai with 5,103 vehicles. So 1,001 vehicles covering those last 4 spots just there. Number 6 is the Vauxhall Corsa. Number 5 is the Mini. Wow, Mini outselling the Corsa. That just seems weird. The march of premium, I suppose. Number 4, the Vauxhall Astra with 6,977 units. Number 3, the Ford Focus with 8,283 units. Number 2, the Ford Fiesta. Ooh,
no, that's a typo.
Hey.
It's a typo.
Number 2.
Can't be true.
Number 2, the Ford Fiesta with 8,601 units. And number 1, the Volkswagen Golf with 8,808 units. Now, tiny difference, 200 at the top. Normally we see a difference of a couple of thousand between number 1 and number 2.
Many thousand.
Many thousand sometimes. Well, I just said that Fiesta's number 2 this month. It still overall holds a 19,000 vehicle lead over the Ford Focus in the year-to-date figures. But no, I mean, Volkswagen Golf, obviously, Boost. It's a new model. Not that any of us can tell the difference. Is coming through, so there's quite high demand for that facelifted version. Ford Fiesta, of course, run down from the end of previous generation, and of course a gap now just in there before this new version. It's just been launched. I think lots of people were on the UK launch of the new Fiesta today.
I think today, yeah.
Yes, I believe Alex Goy's driving back from there with a rather damp bomb.
Yes.
And yes, so today, that's Tuesday as we record, it was been launched in the UK. So there is going to be this month, next month, I think the Fiesta is going to be quite a bit lower overall, just because there won't be those vehicles.
Oh, so they're going to combine it with September, so new registrations and the new Fiesta, etc., that sort of thing.
So far ahead of me that I hadn't even thought about it. But it should be on stream by September, yeah, I'd imagine so.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. I can see them doing that.
That's a level of cunning I hadn't even considered.
It's a big boost.
Yes.
Okay, shall we go through brands and the winners and losers? Let's go through. Let me start with the losers, though. Okay, what is becoming a depressingly familiar start? Citroen and DS. Big downs. Citroen, nearly 22%. So They've gone from 6,000 units last year to 4,685. DS, though, 50% drop, so 1,700 down to 870.
They just need desirable cars.
Well, that's Citroen, and the C3 is out.
It is. I know.
That's what's worrying me.
And it's lovely.
Maybe people are just only looking at SUVs now. You know.
Well, it's almost
but
an
DS
SUV,
desperately needs new
really
models, don't they?
DS just
desperately. Next in line, Fiat down 20, just under 21.5%. So they're just over 5,000 units. Ford down 10%.
But that's now, if you look at the Ford,
which would just be the Fiesta.
3,000. That can be honestly, that can be accounted for in Fiesta sales themselves alone. I mean, that's it. That's all it. That I can quite easily rate that one and understand why that is. What's next?
Infinity's down 32.7%.
Yeah, that's the first time in a long time for Infinity, and I think that's because just that initial batch of Q30s and QX30s is starting. The sales of those are starting to tail off a little bit. I think we'll see next month.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Jeep, though, this is 75%. So 1,473 units last year to 363 this year. That's massive.
Next up, Mazda. There's been a bit of a drop in Mazda. I think the transfer again from one model of CX-5 to another will have had a small impact, but Mazda has had a general sort of dropping in sales month on month for much of the year. So what they're down? They're down 40%.
You need to go out and buy more MX-5s, Alan. It's all your fault.
What do you mean? I've had the money. I've serviced it this month.
Peugeot are down 12%, so from 8,773 to 7,688. Renault a drop of 20%. Skoda a drop of nearly 17%. Subaru nearly 38%. So it's 320. To put that in some perspective, though, a bit like Infinity, 325 units down to 202, but it was still quite a large percentage. And Vauxhall, again, this is a bit similar to Citroen, isn't it? That every month we're talking about their drop recently, and this is nearly 18%. So 25,578 units now. Only 20,981. Only, I say in inverted commas there, but that's
that current Corsa. Sorry, keep going.
No, that was it.
Okay, that current Corsa does not seem to be selling very well at all.
No,
not in the way that the previous generation.
New Insignia's due out any time now, because I see people were at the launch of that this week or last week.
Does it really
I've seen a few pictures of it in the wild where motion journalists have got it and are driving it around. So maybe that'll do something September-wise. Again, fleets, maybe, but I mean,
tricky one there.
Yeah, I mean, when PSA take over, obviously they will spend the first amount of time walking around and understanding exactly what they've got and what areas need to be changed, altered, tweaked to fit in with their culture, and how to and from that efficiencies will occur.
Yeah.
Which looks a bit grim for Vauxhall stroke Opel.
So should we brighten up, because this always
let's. Yes. It's why we always leave the goods till last.
Otherwise, I just lose the will to live. So Dacia up 45%. Lotus, we'll come to Lotus. Porsche up 29%, which we discussed this beforehand, before we even started recording, and we said, oh well, what's that? That's 300 cars. And you think, well, that's 10 Porsches a day through the month of June. 10 Porsches more a day sold during the month of June. So, so yeah, that's pretty significant. Seat up 15%, and Volkswagen up just about 18%, just there.
Yep.
So yeah. Lotus. I was going to say, Lotus up 411%.
Whoa.
And if you're wondering how that's possible, it's gone because they've gone from 9 cars to 46 cars. So well done, Lotus, because the numbers were really alarmingly low for a long time there. So so obviously the new Elise, the 200 and something, is making inroads, and this is them starting to hit the road. So that's fantastic.
Well, it's good they had a better month after the takeover.
Well, yes, it is. Yes, that
must help things. Must help things. Right.
Yep.
New news. Continue.
New news.
Right. Everyone who listens to the show will be delighted to hear that Alan soon will no longer die of asthma or asphyxiation walking out of Euston Station, because the London Electric Vehicle Company, that used to be the London Taxi Company, has just revealed their new taxi that was also being driven at Goodwood, but this was one for people to get around and poke and prod. It's going to be called the TX, and it's a hybrid sort of range extender. So it's got a battery with a 1.3 petrol generator. So it'll apparently have an overall range of 400 miles, and it can run 70 miles on electric only.
Yeah,
and
the one, by the way, at Goodwood was still camouflaged, and it was completely unfinished in the interior. It was still really a hack, rather than a nice finished shiny one that they seem to show off today.
It looks big,
but it's not really. Did you see that it was so of course I was going to say the London Taxi Company, and they're not. They're the London Electric Vehicle Company. They're, as of course, part of Geely, as we've mentioned before. And Peter Horbury, Executive Vice President of Design, and of course, ex-Volvo, also Geely, was saying that this was up there. This was only the second most scary project he'd been handed after redesigning the Volvo Sportwagen stroke estate car. This was only the second hardest one. So,
well, it is tricky.
So, yes.
I mean, to be honest, it is tricky, isn't it? Because it's an icon. It's one of those things that is used to, sell London. Is almost a cliche of London. But it's got a really tricky function that it has to pull off in that design, hasn't it? It's got to be a multi-occupancy vehicle that's easy to get in and out of, turns on a penny, all these other things, and is comfortable to sit in if you're the driver. It's a bunch of really tricky things, isn't it?
In the Autocar article that will be linked in the show notes, of course, he's discussing there how in places, to try to just stop it looking like a box, it was taking like 5 mil here, added 5 mil there off, and that's the kind of tolerances they were running in to try and make it look right. I'm so sorry.
Ding.
Early start today, many miles driven. So it was tiny tolerances that were working to just that, with the difference between it looking good and it having the appropriate nods to its heritage without looking like it's retro, and to stop it looking like basically a box, because whilst you have to start the inside out, by the time you've done all the packaging, you're then working within some tiny constraints.
Well, it is almost one of those vehicles that is that form follows function. It is tricky. I mean, it is a tricky one. I like the round headlights that they've kept. I'm not overly convinced by the front end. but I can see how the rest of it is very London taxi black cab thing.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we talking about?
In front end,
in a couple
if you
of
follow
years' time, it won't matter because they'll be the only things on the road pretty much. So you'll accept it by just seeing it.
Yeah, totally.
And as long as it works.
Yeah. Did you see some of the cool things for cabbies in there?
No.
Did you see the one? So it reckoned they can go from empty and a battery from empty to almost full. Because those last few percent are the ones that take the time. 20 minutes by rapid charger.
Oh, that'll be good.
Most of your 70 miles back, which is pretty impressive. 2 hours on fast charge or 8 to 10 hours on trickle for that. The other thing is the interior. It's got seating for 6 passengers instead of 5.
I did see it had 3 across the back properly.
3 proper seats across the back, and obviously to make 6, it has to be 3 proper seats on the fold downs on the back of the partition. It's actually got ride comfort.
Dun dun.
That would be a first.
Is it? So is it based on a Volvo? Is the underpinnings of Volvo?
No. But what do you mean based? No, the actual chassis and everything is extruded aluminium, is bonded aluminium to keep the weight down, despite the fact that it's got the battery pack, and also to make it as strong as it needs to be, because it needs to be strong over a long time.
Speed bumps.
Just London roads, really. Seat for 6, some road comfort. What else do I have here? The charging points in the back and Wi-Fi, just to make you happy. The other thing it's going to have is electric retracting disabled ramps and the like, rather than having to put them out manually. And the seating position for any wheelchair passengers in it is forward facing, as opposed to rearward facing for the first time ever in a British taxi. The idea is that sales will start on the 1st of August, trials in London in October, and deliveries by the end of 2017.
Very good. Well, I hope it works. I hope it works, and I hope that they can run for 70 miles on electric, and that's not just if you crawl and have no one in it and the wind is behind you and any of that nonsense. If it can do that, I think it'll make a big difference to the roads from the noise.
It does, and do you know where you notice that? You notice that in the new hybrid buses. So loads of people have grumbled like heck about the new bus for London. You know, the one, the Hilton Holloway one. But one of the things about them is how much quieter they are than some of the old stinky ones. And whenever you see other buses which aren't the hybrids, either that style or some of the Wright bus and the Alexander Dennis ones, sorry, bus nerd, then you do actually notice just how noisy they are. Friends of mine work for Alexander Dennis.
Okay.
There we are. So the other thing about it is, by the way, one of the reasons for the name change from the London Taxi Company to the London Electric Vehicle Company is because they want a wider product range. Don't want to just be selling taxis. So
well, I can see commercial vehicles.
Well, that's it. It's commercial delivery vehicles, same drivetrain. If it's an aluminium chassis and stuff, and it is, I'm not sure if it is body on frame, but it may well be, just the sheer ruggedness that's needed, then dead easy to just put a different body on that. Keep all
and it makes the whole last mile of the journey, which is something that keeps cropping up when people are talking about. Trendy. Yes, I know. I've read something somewhere. It's not me. But when they're talking about autonomous vehicles, or they're talking about transportation needs moving forward, it's the last mile that's a big problem for cities, let alone smart cities. So if you've got smaller vehicles, electric vehicles that can do a particular run. I mean, it's like I keep going back to it, but my milkman has got Nissan electric vans. So it's not a float; it's a proper van that does proper speeds, and he charges them overnight, and he's still got charge at the end of the day when his whole fleet come back, and then they go out and beg for their money and all the rest of it. And you just go, well, that makes so much sense in a town. It's so much easier for the people driving. It's obviously there's the cleaner air, and then there's the noise problems, pollution, because there's many studies, aren't there, about how stressful it is living next to busy roads. Even if you have tuned out the noise of them, you are still being affected, and there are studies proving that you are affected with stress and with pressures just from that noise, even though you're not consciously hearing it now because you've been there long enough. So if we can reduce the noise as well as sound, as the air pollution, then that's just makes everything better. And let's make everything better, please.
Yeah, I think it's you're completely right. I mean, the alternative for anything smaller than this in London at the minute is a cycle courier. There is a space there for possibly more specialized vehicles. Can you imagine a fleet, an Amazon fleet like this, doing your Prime deliveries?
Well, if you imagine, a single driver cab delivery wagon that will do, say, 30 miles on electric, and you have a couple of those to do your area that you deal with, it doesn't take up as much space, as long as it's got the right safety stuff and it's not one of these ridiculously designed, like the basically.
You can say the UPS one.
No, I haven't seen that.
No. Oh, okay.
No, I was thinking the cars, the little cars that sort of say, "Oh, we're an electric car," and they're not a car.
Excuse me. Yes. I blotted its name from my mind.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. As long as it's designed correctly, as in it will be safe as well, and it's not just a bit of tin cladding on a.
It's not a joke. It's the G-Wiz is what we're thinking of.
Yes.
That awful thing that set back electric vehicles in this country by goodness knows how many years.
But if you can do that properly, and you can carry the small packages, I mean, the Royal Mail would probably buy a shed load of those.
Only if it's cheap enough.
In urban areas. But when it comes to the time of replacing with their fleet of normally normal combustion engine vans, particularly if you're an urban, I mean, we are talking really urban areas as well here.
Yeah, I remember that it's not as if this is a completely unique thing, because Renault. You've just reminded me talking about Post. Of course, I was somewhere sunny in French last week, and so many Post vans in France are the Renault Kangoo ZEs. So electric powered Kangoos.
Oh, could you do a Twizy with a back on it?
They do.
They do.
Sorry, there is a commercial version of the Twizy. Yes, there is. Instead of back seat, see the air quotes. On the Twizy, there is a version where actually there's more of a boxy bit protrudes out the back, and it goes right into there. And it's for urban deliveries. I've seen them liveried up as pizza things for cleaning companies, all sorts of stuff. There is a commercial version of the Twizy. Yes.
And if they can just make a 5-seater version of the normal, I'd be happy.
The Zoe's still only 4 seats, isn't it?
Is it? So it's still a Leaf then. The smallest is a Leaf then.
Smallest I think you can get away with, mate, is a Leaf. There's a lot to be said for it though.
Yeah. Anyway, we have prattled on a lot there. I
knew we were going to prattle on lots because I had over a page worth of notes, and I was darned if I was going to miss out on.
Well, no, I mean it's pleasing to know that you're not going to drop dead next time you go to London. So that's good to know.
Yes. Well, not from that anyway. There's plenty of other things in London that could make me drop dead.
Right, come on. This is your bit.
It is my bit, yes, because I insisted we talk about this. And that is George Holtz, the founder of Comma.ai, if you remember it, who started making but then cancelled essentially a build your own autonomous vehicle kit, which I think was meant to work on Audis and Hondas, wasn't it?
He was developing it on his own Honda.
And it was called the Comma One, and then people said, "Oh no, hang on a minute, you can't do this yet. There's no way can you do this."
By people, you mean the safety regulator of America said, "Hang on, you are under particular safety regulations and rules, at which he said, well, that's a bit unfair, right? I just stop it then.
It was all about the testing.
Hang on,
actually.
you can't offer to produce something that is going to take control of a vehicle without passing some sort of safety testing. I put it to you, sir.
If I remember correctly, well, have you told Mr. Musk? If you remember correctly, it was the problem.
There'll be
was
lightning.
If you remember correctly, it was because everybody who was running it would have had to apply to be a test vehicle. It was actually from that point of view. So what he did was he open sourced it. He open sourced the whole thing and said, look, okay, here's all the code, here's everything you need about it, and you can all, we can all develop it together should you desire. Up to you, really. However, he has come out with a new set of products which are based off some of the technology from the common one, but do different things. None of them promises autonomy of your vehicle. Let's make that completely clear here and now. So the part that's actually getting the that seems to be getting all the attention is actually an $88 USB 2 dongle, which USB 2, pardon me, OBD2 dongle, which has a USB slot in it. It also has Wi-Fi capability, and it plugs into the OBD. I know. I'm just doing it on purpose now. Which plugs into the OBD2 slot in your vehicle. Basically, any vehicle after 1996 should have one, or must have one. And you can use that to record information about your driving, and how much fuel, depending on your vehicle, how much fuel it's got, how much.
There's already products out like that, though.
All sorts of bits. There's loads
is
of
it
stuff like
Automatic is one that gets mentioned on podcasts, I'm sure. So this is, from that description, from my understanding, and I know you haven't finished yet, but from my understanding, and I haven't really read into this one because I didn't have my tinfoil hat handy. So it is somewhere in the house, but it's probably been refurbed, softer lining, that sort of thing.
Thicker tinfoil, and
it will log your journeys. It will tell you the acceleration, deceleration. It's
no,
as in journeys, as in not where you go, unless it has the capability. I'm not talking about tracking you. I am talking about the car started at this time, it shut off at this time. This is what happened in between. Accelerating, this is again if all the sensors are there, though, but accelerating, braking, how smooth you were, etc., that sort of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's distances and all the sort of engine parameters and all that kind of fun stuff. For some of the things that you've just mentioned, however, what you need is the Schiffer app, which he's also released, which is essentially a cloud-enabled dash cam app for your iOS or Android device, which you can use to record your journeys, and it records all the other stuff that's going on as well. So it records the camera, it records the field of view, and it records the acceleration, the braking, all that kind of stuff, and the levels of that. If you've got the two and you join the pair of them together, okay, and this is where the Panda comes in, you can actually both record what your vehicle is doing and all the stuff that's coming in from all the different sensors. And that can include things like any built-in cameras that it has, for lane departure and all these kind of things. You could record that, the output of that data. I'm not saying you record the pictures, but the actual data that's given from the camera. And you can record that along with the video of your journey and your driving, and so that you have an idea of the context in which your vehicle is recording and all these bits of information. And you can map one on top of the other, and you can analyze that so that you can go about your happy business using the Kibana software that's also provided by Mr. Holtz, so that you can see the correlation between the two of them, and you could use that potentially to help understand what the various stimuli would be for your vehicle and how your vehicle would would behave in those situations were it autonomous. And so you can either analyze that yourself, or you can upload it to a cloud service so everyone else can help analyze it as well. A sort of GitHub for automatic. I'm sorry, people in the audience. You can't see the look on Andrew's face, and I have told him he's not to explode or go.
I have read enough of this, though, to know that he is not aiming this at consumers. He is aiming this at a small test subjects, but small select number of drivers who will understand that they are helping to test this stuff to help put the data in so it can be helped for, it's open source type learning. It's to speed up the learning process and that sort of thing.
It is. And
because frankly, I still don't understand why I would want any of that information as a consumer. So it is not aimed at me. And I scurry away to AutoTrader or Classics and Cars to find cars from the 70s or 80s, and only buy them. Buy all of them, so that and I will call it Tinfoil Garage, where all the people who have similar thoughts as to me can come and get a car that is not pluggable-inable.
Anyway, I was mostly because I thought that was interesting, just because of the way that he's taken the information from that comma one and the learning from that and made it available to, as you quite rightly say, a sort of dev community there, rather than it being out there. Good article on TechCrunch, all about it, really.
Yep.
And it came up partly because there's a story. I'll mention it again later on. For fun.
Okay.
So anyway, speaking of which, now you did get slightly skeptical about these things. I'm somewhat skeptical about this next story.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, I saw this from Greg Cable on Twitter, and he was talking about a Norwegian company called Nordic Blue Crude, who is supposed to have created a Wonder Diesel. And they have, that's Wonder with a U.
Wonder Diesel.
Yes. And they've got together with Audi, and Audi is backing this now. They think it's good. And this is a synthetic diesel, which apparently cuts the, I've got another article, which apparently
can cut.
Okay, can cut carbon emissions by 85%, which, let's be honest, is a good thing. Because remember, that's what diesels were being promoted back in the day before they became Satan's engine of choice, is that they were helping to reduce carbon emissions more than petrol engines would. And there's an article from Green Car Reports from June 2016 talking about this, which will be in the show notes. But Audi are calling it the e-diesel. And I mean, if it can do what it says it can do.
Is that because it's diesel-y?
I don't know. They didn't call it iDiesel, thankfully. Put it in a white container. But the way that Audi are trying to suggest it will be produced, and how a lot of green energy will go into producing this. I mean, if diesel engines can run on a fuel that does not pollute anywhere near as badly as they are polluting now, whether it is air quality and carbon emissions, then this is a good thing, because as many people keep pointing out, this anti-diesel vitriol is quite daft, because at the minute, so much of this world is run on diesel, and petrol is not always a viable alternative. It is not a viable alternative for a ship. It is not a viable alternative for lorries going through Africa and places like that. It has very big use. I mean, that's before we get to commercial plant stuff as well. So if you want a new road, then if this can.
Sorry, I was just to support that. Biodiesel, of course. It was a big thing about it a little while ago. If I stop waving the pen around, it's great, it's brilliant. The trouble is, though, that it has compatibility issues and also stability over temperatures. It just doesn't have, and that causes all sorts of challenges. Not just that, but it takes an awful lot of crop space to actually grow the crops for biodiesel.
And we need that space.
Biodiesel would be awesome, but people need that for food. So hence biodiesel. So sorry. So I'm just putting that in there because somebody will come back and say, what about biodiesel?
It is not as viable. So this seems to have been bubbling away for quite a while with the company, but it looks as though Audi are talking about it more vocally now. I don't know whether that's as a reaction to Dieselgate. I presume it is, has made a focus on it. But I mean, it's worth pursuing if it's remotely viable, I think. Because if you can come up with it, then you've suddenly extended the life of internal combustion engines many, many years.
Yeah. Now, Audi have made small amounts at their factory in Dresden, but there was nothing else I could see in those articles about it being commercially manufactured. And I think that, of course, is like biodiesel going to be the challenge. Is it commercially viable on larger scales? I mean, it involves superheating steam in conjunction with carbon dioxide to make, I've lost the name, synthetic long chain hydrocarbons. Yes, well remembered, Al. Synthetic long chain hydrocarbons. Great, but can that be done on a big enough scale, at enough cost, in an ecologically viable way? I suppose if you're using hydro or even was I going to say nuclear? Possibly going to say nuclear, but hydropower or anything like that, then you could possibly do it. But let's just see, and that's why Norway would be good for it.
Yep.
Anyway, gosh, we were worried this was going to be a short show tonight, and it doesn't look like it's going to manage that. So this finally is that point when I remind you how you can support the Motoring Podcast, review, special editions we do, and all that kind of stuff. And the best way that you can possibly do that is via Patreon. It lets you support the Motoring Podcast by donating a small amount of money every month. If you'd like to know more about how you can join and what you can get back through joining the Patreon, then head over to motoringpodcast.com and click on the orange Become a Patreon button on the front page. If you're already a patron, then thank you very, very much. We hope that you enjoy what you're getting in addition. If you want to know what those different benefits are, what the different things that we offer at different levels, then please visit that site. Everything from L to, I think, everything you can get from L to GLX, different levels, from getting an email to tell you that the shows are out on the various podcast platforms and on our website, right the way up to actually being able to have more of a say in the way that the show goes and the strategy behind the Motoring Podcast. Of course, we understand not everyone has the ability to donate money. So please don't forget to like, rate, and leave feedback via the podcast player of your choice. It really does make a huge difference in the black magic that are the Apple charts. Don't ask us how they work, just sometimes we're higher than others.
Yeah, please do, otherwise I get depressed and Alan has to put up with me moaning.
It's not that he has to press, I have to listen to him, okay? And that's what matters. Okay, I understand its context, and then I have to explain. You go, no, Andrew. But no, it does make a huge difference, seriously. So if you could, that would be just fab. Anyway.
Motorsport.
Motorsport news. Not a huge amount of motorsport news this week. Of course, the British Grand Prix is coming up this weekend. So try and avoid the A43 on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There you go. That's my guide for you.
Top tip
to
of the
the
week.
British Motor Show. Don't go near the A43. However, BMW today confirmed that it would be entering drivetrains for season 5 of Formula E. So in addition with the Andretti team, they will become some derivation of BMW and Andretti together to actually get involved in racing. Now, BMW have, as a manufacturer, have been involved with Formula E right from day one. The Qualcomm safety car, everybody take a drink, is, of course, a BMW i8, and they also provided the BMW i3 medical and course cars. A quick plug for our friends at Qualcomm, they're all induction charged as well on that using Qualcomm's technology. I really should try and get them to pay us for that kind of thing. So yes, BMW in Formula E in a team as well as a supporter, which is great news. So got BMW now, got Renault, got DS, got Audi. Did now Mercedes or not? Because I couldn't remember. Which
they was, if I remember correctly, they were still humming and hawing.
Okay, I'll check tomorrow.
Yeah. So, why I think this is interesting, having BMW involved in the powertrain side of things, is that's obviously going to translate directly into their i products, which there's been a lot of talk about because they themselves have talked in the press about how it has proved harder for them to make a profit on that than they thought. They're still making a profit, but I think they've underestimated how complex / costly / difficult it is to make an electrified vehicle, to the extent they've gone for as well.
I was going to say, well, they've gone the whole hog, haven't they, with complete new carbon fiber reclamation. So the shells and the tubs of the i8 and the i3, completely new platforms in those cars, and they use recycled carbon fiber as well in the manufacturing, which was a first, really, at that kind of level. So they were blooming brave. BMW have been blooming brave.
But I think that sets them up well for the future, because they're ahead of the game on many others now. And if you look at their direct competitors, how many of them have got properly electrified vehicles? We're talking 20-mile journeys, aren't we, and stuff like that they do. And with the I series,
that's not quite true. The Audi e-trons are a bit further than that. So let's be.
But they came out later, didn't they? Didn't they come out later?
In the UK, possibly, but they're not a whole new vehicle. It's an A3.
No, it's an A3. They've thrown some batteries in and stuff.
So it's different there.
And the i3 just seems to me that I know I'm really digressing here, but the i3 seems a perfect urban vehicle.
It is.
It's quite compact. It's got a good range now in an urban environment. Definitely. It's a lovely. By all accounts, it's a lovely interior. I mean, I haven't been lucky enough to drive one. I mean, I've seen a few, but I've not sat in one yet, and that's something I'd be really keen to do. Hopefully they can, because I think for it to be adopted, electrified vehicles to be adopted quicker, the premium brands really need to do it, because everyone's aspiring to own a premium vehicle, aren't they? That's why there's more 3 Series out there than there are Mondeos and things like that. So, that they need to. I'm not saying they have the duty bound or anything, but they can really drive it forward, pun intended.
It's easier to trickle it down than it is to push it from the lower brands up, really.
Yeah.
Lower brands, I'm sorry. You know what
I know. And so does everyone listening,
yes.
And no one has taken that personally. And if they do have any complaints, we will let them know what your Twitter handle is at the end of the show.
Yes, as we always do.
Right, this is a quick one. We mentioned about Mission Motorsport and their Race for Remembrance. And if you are in a position to help support them financially, don't forget that is still open. But this time, Mission Motorsport are doing something a bit different. They have what they're going to do is for 2017, they are going to clear the side of their transportation vehicle, and you have the ability to pay to have your face stuck on the side of it. Now,
I might do that.
What's going to happen is there's going to be they've worked out a grid of 4,800 individual squares. Each is measuring 10 by 10 pixels, and it's £10 per square. So that they can recreate your image perfectly and stick it on the side of the lorry. But I think that's an excellent way for them to try and raise some money. I mean, I think they opened this up at Goodwood, and they were asking if people wanted to do that at Goodwood. But I think anything that helps support Mission Motorsport, as we've made very clear on this show many times, is a good thing. And if you can, and if it is of interest, or you know someone is an interest, this might be an interest to, do pass on the link that will be in the show notes, and tell them we sent you.
Yes, please do. Please. Yeah. No, that's a good one. I'm already sort of starting to plan out whether or not we can get a little Motoring Podcast logo by 10 by 10 pixels, which would be kind of cool. I think we can approximate it. Pixel art. That's what we want. Anyway, I wanted to quickly talk about something that I retweeted quite a lot the other week, a couple of weeks ago, just before I went away. And that was all about Ed Niedermeyer and Alex Roy of Ed Niedermeyer is of the Daily Kanban. He's a motoring journalist. And Alex Roy holds a ridiculous number of driving across the US records, basically. So they went on behalf of, it all kind of came out of their involvement in the Autonomcast, which is a really good podcast about autonomous vehicles and stuff, technology in vehicles. And it's one of the ones that I really enjoy. It's nice and different. So basically, Ed and Alex they ended up driving across about 1,000 miles from Chennai to Mumbai in India in the new Renault Kwid, which is a small SUV style hatchback, which starts at about $4,500, I think they were saying. Okay, so super cheap. Really clever. I don't want to give too much away here. Really clever, new ground up platform engine, the lot, designed specifically for India. But there are a couple of things they wanted to learn about that, and one of which was just, everybody goes on about this billion road deaths we can save a year with autonomous vehicles and all this kind of stuff. And they wanted to see just what happened actually. They wanted to try $4,500 vehicle, new car, see what it was like. Secondly, they wanted to experience driving in India to see whether all of these things all these big numbers about road deaths around the world could actually happen at any reasonable time overall in India. And so that's what basically came together into this. So link in the show notes to a by Ed in there about the mostly about the Renault Kwid, a little bit about the driving.
But I'll also put a link to the podcast episode which has come out this week.
This week's episode of the Autonomcast to go into far more detail. So the article on the Daily Beast is relatively long form. And it's good, it's interesting, it gives you a view. If you want more information, listen to the Autonomcast. It kept me sane this morning on this morning's drive.
In similar conditions.
Yeah, almost. No, not at all. I've been to Mumbai, not at all similar conditions. And that's one of the outcomes. Really listen to it. It's one of their best. Really is one of their best. And one of the things that so Alex Roy is friends with George Hotz that I mentioned earlier on about Comet AI. And one of the things he did was he made sure to record using the Shifter app just what was going on round about. So that they could analyze that. But he's reckoning that all these promises of autonomy and certainly level 5, you're looking at US rollout plus 50 years before it gets to India, at least. And just the discussion there about just how everything is really interesting. Some of the anecdotes that come back. Please make a point of listening. At least read the article. Please listen to Automacast. Really good.
Yes. Okay. Right, and finally,
yes,
and restored once again to his rightful position, a Gavin Braithwaite-Smith article, but this time this is a biggie. This is Gavin got to go around Citroen's secret car collection. Oh.
It's just as well Gavin doesn't like Citroens in any way, shape, or form, or is a nerd at all about them.
I know. Oh, it's wonderful. Link in the show notes because he will go through many things, sort of the history and what's on display, all the types of cars that are out there. There's some amazing photographs and cars, and I don't think I would have left personally. One of my particular favorites is when he's discussing the motorsport era of Citroen, and I'll just read this quickly, but the Citroen BX40C is one of the least successful rally cars of all time, managing just 3 races before Group B was banned in 1986. The project was so disastrous, Citroen attempted to buy back all road-going versions in order to have them destroyed. And that's just wonderful. And then I'm looking at the cars and I'm going, I want that one, I want that one, I want that. Can I have that one? Not so sure about that one, but I'll have that one. It's just, and I would imagine his photo has gone over many SD cards he used. You know, it must be huge.
300 something.
Is that what he did?
300. Something ridiculous like that. I believe it's on MSN cards. Maybe he was putting a load there because Motor Research provide content for them. But he said his own collection of all the stuff was just huge. There is a place that you can see some of this stuff. It's a real shame that this isn't a museum. Okay, this is the collection rather than something that people can actually go out and go round. And it is a shame that, having been to the Peugeot Museum and seen how good that is, it's a real shame that Citroen don't have an equivalent. But there were some vehicles from in here I recognise, and that's because they do display them little by little. And they display them at the C42 Paris, which is their concept store. Or the brand store on the Champs-Élysées at number 42. That's what, hence the C42 on the Champs-Élysées, and it is well worth a visit. It is well worth a visit when you're in Paris. If I'm over, and I normally make sure I have my camera with me, as you might have noticed from Paris, then I try and make a point to go into C42 just to see what they've got on display. And there's some stuff from in here that I recognize. Unfortunately, it tends to be celebrating whatever's coming out at a particular point. So, but on the other hand, there could be a display of Maharis in there, or there could be that Citroen GS La Flèche, which I notice in here, and all these kind of things. They do make appearances. It's just a shame we can't see them all at once and all in the same place.
Well, I think they're missing a trick there, because I've noticed, Porsche have done it. Jaguar Land Rover have just done it. The heritage stuff that maybe I can see a lot of manufacturers going that way as a new way to create interest in a brand and to encourage older models to be kept on the road, perhaps, or for people to buy renovated older models and things like that. This may be something that some of the manufacturers start looking at seriously. I mean, I don't think it's for all manufacturers, because I don't think there's the historic love for all of them as there are for many.
And that's curious because Citroen really, traditionally, has been such a volume manufacturer, and I think it's great that they're one where you could see if there's wandering around buying up GSs and doing and doing it
make an electrified
it would
2 CVs.
Sell.
Make electrified 2 CVs.
Of all the examples you could have picked, I think that's about the worst one. Could you imagine an electrified CX though?
Yes, thank you.
How awesome would that be?
My kids don't need any kidneys at that point.
No.
You're doing this for daddy. Shush.
Yes. Lie down whilst I get the kitchen scissors. Yeah, Anyway, it's really cool. Go look at the article on Motoring Research, and whenever it hits MSN, if it hasn't already, then go look there as well, because of course the more hits they get, the more chance there are that Motoring Research can make more and more content like this.
Yes.
And we like content like this. We like it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's about us, Alan.
I think that is about us, to be perfectly honest, this week. Yes, it is. So, everyone, don't forget, between now and next week. Oh, I don't think there's any parish notes. Is there? Might be a couple of special editions coming soon.
Yes.
Keep an eye out for those. I'll let you know. Don't forget, between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Don't forget to support us via Patreon or any other way, and you can find all the different ways of supporting us at motoringpodcast.com/support. And please, as we say, leave a review and rating on iTunes, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. It really does matter. Andrew, how can we get in touch and abuse you electronically?
You can get in touch with me via Twitter. If you search for Crack Windscreen, you will find me there. And Alan, when people want to tell you that you're wrong about things, as people like to do, what is the best way for people to do that?
They do, and I realise now it was an ODA6, not an ODA8. The best way you can touch me.
You better hope they're still listening.
Twitter, it's gone. That was Saturday. Best way to get in touch with me is Twitter, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BRADLEY. We'll be back next week, if not before. But until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.